Hello to everyone and the internet. It is currently Wednesday, January 2nd. I am Nathan of Washington and you're watching The Young Globalist. And this is the news. Alright. Elizabeth Warren 2020. Trump says no chance. Trump basically says that you should ask her psychologist. I know a bit of psychology, mostly for self-therapy, and she does not seem mentally ill to me. A bullshitter, certainly. Elizabeth Warren's a bullshitter, but she's hardly crazy. She's very emotional and hysterical. She's a very passionate person. That's why she comes off as seeming crazy. Elizabeth Warren talks about ending the corruption in Washington, but fails to see where it is, honestly. The established Democrats, war hawks, and military-industrial complex are where the corruption lies, primarily. But she's not seeing that. She thinks the corruption exists elsewhere. She points towards the Republicans. She points towards Donald Trump. She points towards basically everywhere but where it really is. Because like emotional people like her, she's dogmatic. Meaning she sees it where her ideology tells her it's found. Her given ideology on politics. Bottom line is, Trump is the real anti-establishment hero here. I mean, he's been pulling our troops out of the Middle East. It's one of his campaign promises. He was going to end America's endless wars, one after another. He was going to bring us out of that American war culture. He's going to end the bully state. He's the real anti-establishment hero, because the establishment is the ones who put us into these constant military wars, one after another. It's the establishment that does it. It's the establishment at fault. Bottom line is, you want to know who your real hero is? There he is. Donald Trump. He'll put a stop to it. Elizabeth Warren, charlatan. She's just a vessel for regurgitated Democratic dogma. She's a passionate drone. Do you really want a passionate drone as your president? I don't. I mean, if she wins, which is very unlikely, I respect the office of president. If she gets in, my criticism will be kept civilized, and I will not do anything that might be seen as treason. I will respect the office of president. Someone's got to. No one else seems to. But it's not likely. Trump is your real anti-establishment hero. Jair Bolsonaro is aiming to take Brazil conservative. He basically plans to ease strict gun laws in order to discourage crime by arming the citizens. Gee, what a revolutionary idea. And making everything just a bit more conservative. He's somewhat of a Trump equivalent. He's essentially Brazil's Donald Trump. He's got a similar background, he's got a similar agenda, albeit he is not pro-gay, though. He's not so anti-gay that he's going to be like shock therapy for all. Or he's not going to try to, gay conversion and all that. But he's just not a big fan of it. He's somewhere between Trump, on the issue of homosexuality, he's somewhere between Trump and Vladimir Putin. He's somewhere along that line somewhere. Probably fairly close to the middle, I'd say. Or more towards Putin's end of the spectrum. But Bolsonaro essentially is another charismatic like Trump, as opposed to the boring-ass business-as-usual style politicians. Now, if you're not familiar, there's at least two different kinds of politicians. There's business politicians, who deal mostly in facts, and they're usually seen as boring, ordinary, not particularly interesting, and typically when they get elected, It's just business as usual. Hillary Clinton is a prime example of that. Trump, on the other hand, and Bolsonaro is what we call a charismatic politician, where their speeches are very emotional, very driven. They're not so ordinary. They usually have some extraordinary quality about them that gets people behind them. Then they get crowds up into a frenzy where they're like, I want to have your baby and all that, you know? Mind you, Bolsonaro is more of a classic charismatic politician. Right? He's more of a classic example of a charismatic, where he stirs the crowd into a frenzy by getting very emotional about what the people want. Trump is a different kind of charismatic. He uses counterculture and a soft sort of bullying to get people behind him. His attitude is what makes him popular. He said so himself, and it's true. It's his loud, abrasive personality. It's a sort of backwards kind of way of being a charismatic. Charismatics usually win more often than business politicians do. The problem with a sudden far-right shift in Brazil like this is that some people are obviously going to be opposed to it. There will be violence. There will be propaganda and rhetoric. There will be danger. There will be potential for harm done. This will be like the political equivalent of an earthquake where the tectonic plates start to shift. Right? It's going to hurt some people. It's going to be a bit of a disaster. But sometimes the truth is you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. And Bolsonaro, I just hope he's smart and realizes that it would not be in his country's best interest to do this far-right shift all at once. To do it all at once. To make Brazil into a conservative nation all in one motion. That is not safe. You should do it subtly. Maybe even get some help from Donald Trump. That's right. Also, interfering in the affairs of other nations I do not approve of. Unless we are asked to interfere, if we are requested to help, then maybe we should feel obligated to do so. If Bolsonaro asked us for assistance, maybe we should lend it. I would like to lend help to Brazil, and they may very well need it in the coming future. Nonetheless, Bolsonaro is now been sworn in as Brazil's president. And he will put a stop to their particular brand of socialism. So hooray for Brazil. Because in my opinion, socialism, if we can't all be rich, then let's all equally be poor. That's essentially what I see as socialism. It's big government. And a big enough government that can give you everything you want is big enough to take it all away. Bottom line is socialist governments are just too big and too authoritarian. They're a danger to your rights as a human being. France introduces GAFA, a business tax aimed at Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple. Yet another demand of the yellow vests that France has decided to capitulate to. Now, let's be clear. I don't think that taxation is the right way to go. See, I go with the position. So I may not be a true libertarian, but I have some strong libertarian leanings. There's no way around it. Definitionally speaking, there's no way around it. There's no tap dancing around it. There's no way to rationalize it. Taxation, by definition, is theft. Because what happens if you don't pay taxes? You go to jail. They extort you for your money. Pay us so we don't send you to jail. But I also recognize the intention behind this is that France is trying to crack down on these massive American monopolies. Because monopolies are not good for any marketplace. They strangle and choke it up. They're like weeds. When you get weeds in your garden, the weeds dig underneath and they strangle your other plants. That happens. This is sort of how monopolies work. They strangle small business and they make the marketplace uncompetitive. Monopolies are about as uncapitalist as you can possibly get. But so while taxation is indeed theft, it's not necessarily the best way to go. There are other better possibilities you can consider than that. But still, I mean, it's still going to help. If France does go through it, it's still going to help with limiting the power of these monopolies and make the global marketplace competitive again. So it will certainly be a big help. Andrew Cuomo releases 4 dangerous immigrants in retaliation for Trump border feud with the Democrats. This is insane. I mean, these guys were literally charged with murder, rape, and drug trafficking, and he lets them out just because of Trump's border talk and his talk against immigration. Democrats love immigrants. Why? Because the immigrants vote for Democrats. That's a big part of their power base. If we didn't have illegal immigrants in this country, it would be so much easier to just go and starve the beast already. And he makes the claim, oh, they've been reformed by the system. Yeah, but statistically speaking, our prison system doesn't really reform anyone. In fact, it almost guarantees that they'll go back to criminal behavior. Almost every single time. The numbers don't lie. I can't count the number of studies I've seen on it, and the number of documentaries on it. And it's not just me, lots of people have seen it. As far as I'm concerned, this is more democratic butthurt. What else could it be? This has the stink of butthurt all over it. This is just revenge against Trump. Only this time it's worse. Because this time someone could actually end up getting hurt. And of course, they'll skew the story in such a way that Cuomo won't be sent up the river without a paddle for it. He won't. Trust me, he's not going to get any flack, no criticism, except for those among us who end up hearing the inevitable story after this report, that we know that it's Cuomo who pardoned them as governor. We know he did it. Governor of New York, by the way, in case you were wondering. We will remember, and we will criticize him if no one else will. I know I will. And my audience, I'm sure you guys will too. I'm hoping. Anyway, for our final story on the Unglobalist today, I want you to read you an article. And I'm going to speak about the subject in the article about these hackers who are threatening to they threatened to dump insurance files, proving that 9/11 was an inside job. A hacker group has threatened to publicly release a large cache of insurance documents that conclusively prove 9/11 was an inside job. On Monday, New Year's Eve, the group known as the Dark Overlord, that is a great name, that is awesome, said it had in its possession a large cache of internal files belonging to Hiscox Syndicated Ltd., Lloyd's of London, and Silverstein Properties. Hiscox Syndicates Ltd. And Lloyd's of London are some of the biggest insurers on the planet, insuring everything from the smallest policies to some of the largest policies on the planet, and who even insured structures such as the World Trade Centers, the group announced. We'll be providing many answers about 9/11 conspiracies through our 18,000 secret documents link that hackers tweeted on Monday. I'm a little bit skeptical, but this seems pretty solid so far. Vice.com reports a spokesperson for the Hiscox group confirmed to Motherboard that the hackers had breached a law firm that advised the company and likely stolen files related to litigation around the 9/11 attacks. The law firm systems are not connected to Hiscox infrastructure, and Hiscox own systems were unaffected by this incident. One of the cases the law firm handled for Hiscox and other insurers related to litigation arising from the events of 9/11. And we believe that information relating to this was stolen during that breach, the spokesperson wrote in an email. Once Hiscox was informed of the law firm's data breach, it took action and informed policyholders as required. We will continue to work with law enforcement in both the UK and US on this matter. They added Lloyd's of London did not respond to a request for comment. The hacking group published a small set of letters, emails, and other documents that mentioned various law firms, as well as the Transport Security Administration, TSA, and Federal Aviation Administration. The TSA could not provide a statement in time for publication, and the FAA told Motherboard in an email it was investigating. Those documents themselves appear to be fairly innocuous, but the group says it may release more. In its extortion note, the Dark Overlord included a link for a 10 GB archive of files it allegedly stole. The group also provided a link to this archive to Motherboard before publishing its announcement. The cache is encrypted by the hackers are threatening to release the relevant encryption keys, unlocking different sets of files at a time, unless the victims pay the hackers an undisclosed ransom fee in Bitcoin. Pay the fuck up or we're going to bury you with this. If you continue to fail us, we'll escalate these releases by releasing the keys. Each time a lawyer is opened, a new wave of liability will fall upon you, the extortion note reads. The Dark Overlord is also claiming to be offering to sell the data on a dark web hacking forum, and is attempting to blackmail individuals who may be included in the documents themselves. If you're one of the dozens of solicitor firms who was involved in the litigation, a politician who was involved in the case, a law enforcement agency who was involved in the investigations, a property management firm, an investment bank, a client of a client, a reference of a reference, a global insurer, or whoever else, you're welcome to contact our email below and make a request to formally have your documents and materials withdrawn from any eventual public release of the materials. However, you'll be paying us, the group's post reads. As the Dark Lord's announcement notes, the breach itself was previously reported in vague terms by a specialist legal publication in Hiscox Group, pointed Motherboard to the firm's own April 2018 announcement of a data breach. Hiscox recently learned of an information security incident affecting a specialist law firm in the United States that provided advice to Hiscox or its policyholders on some of its U.S. commercial liability insurance claims. The incident involved illegal access to information stored in the law firm's server, which may have included information relating to up to 115 of Hiscox's U.S.-based commercial insurance policyholders, the earlier announcement reads. Now see, mind you, I want to believe that it was an inside job just as much as anybody, because a lot of the facts concerning 9/11 are hella suspicious. The fact that jet fuel can't melt steel beams. The data is pretty solid. We're talking about a temperature higher than the jet fuel could possibly reach. But don't fool yourselves into believing that these hacker types have your best interests at heart. I mean, where money is involved, do you really want to think that they're in it for anything other than just the money? Like, really? They're extorting what I believe to be the truth. They are extorting the truth for money. That seems kind of dirty to me. That's shady AF. That's crony capitalism. That's excessive. If they really cared about it, they'd be doing it for free. I mean, look at the hacker group Anonymous. Do you think Anonymous makes any money? Sure, they make money off, like, merch. They buy Guy Fawkes masks and stuff like that. But otherwise, do they make any money off their hacktivism? Fuck no. Anytime that money is involved, you can't really totally trust someone. There's always going to be that little kernel of doubt. If you're sane, there will be that kernel of doubt. Mind you, that article I just read you was pretty solid. I only saw like 1, 2, maybe 3 sources there. So, But, I mean, if the companies that they're extorting are saying that their files are indeed missing, then there could be something to this. So while I doubt their intentions, I don't doubt their facts necessarily. I take it with a certain grain of salt. That maybe, maybe not. Probably, but maybe not, would be my position on this. Either way, I'm pretty sure that it was an inside job by the CIA. Anyway, that's it for the Young Globalist, folks, today. I'm out.